the same reason that Coinbase is worried about not knowing the clarity and they're not getting rules. My guess is the judge's decision probably has been made. It just is
Yeah.
not being allowed to be made public. They're trying to get everything in alignment for what they want.
In today's video, Chief Market Strategist of InTheMoneyStocks.com Gareth Soloway tells us all about his latest analysis of the charts as well as his predictions and price targets for Bitcoin and Ethereum. He believes that we could possibly see Bitcoin's low in the coming months. Soloway shares his opinion regarding high inflation rates, the stock market, the crypto market, and the Fed.
Gareth, show us what's going on with Bitcoin because everybody's going crazy these days.
I know, and that's such a concern to me, man. And when everyone goes crazy, that's when you got to be a little bit more careful. So, listen, great move up the last couple days. I mean, we had the move into the 30,500 level here. That was key resistance. We had that big pullback. So let's go right into Bitcoin. So
Perfect.
Bitcoin, guys, again, hammered on that 30,500 level. Again, remember that is a psychological epic resistance level. It's the level that was the low in 2021 when we had that middle pullback before the run up to 69,000. So again, it's a major technical resistance, psychological resistance. The Bitcoin market couldn't get through it, pulled back sharply. We then did get kind of a banking crisis 2.0 yesterday with FRC collapsing quite a bit. I think it was down like 40, 50% a couple days in a row. We did see a pop in Bitcoin yesterday, but it gave it back. And that's, again, a little bit concerning why it gave it back so much. Granted, we are up today. Today, I look at it, I don't think the banking crisis is driving it today. Today seems to be a risk on. The stock market's up, NASDAQ's ripping, we got great tech earnings, everyone's feeling great, so Bitcoin's going up. So Bitcoin's in this weird phase where sometimes it goes up because there's a bank crisis, and then sometimes it goes up because there's a risk-on environment where everyone's excited to put money to work.
I hear there's a rumor that I hear allegedly there's a company that sent out by accident an email. It was a hedge fund to its people that was false. That Bitcoin was going to go down or something, and everybody sold, and there was panic, and there was turmoil, and it was brought back up or something like that. Do you have any take on this, or?
So I haven't heard many details in that. I haven't heard any major reports, but it's always a possibility. The way it sold yesterday was incredible. Like the selling was just, and you could see it right here. I mean, there was some big players unloading here. I mean, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 down candles in a row. I'm a technician. When I see 7 candles down in a row, I'm a buyer, right? That's what we call a time count in the business. And certainly it did turn out to be a good buying opportunity. I wish I held it for a little longer than I did, but that's just the nature of trading. You never sell the highs and you never really buy the lows. You just get close.
Exactly. Now, you mentioned that 35K is a resistance, but it keeps on hitting that resistance over and over. That would mean that resistance is getting weaker and weaker. The question is, will we get up there again and be able to hit it again to break it? What do you think? What are the odds?
Yeah, so I think you're exactly right. So number one, when we were up to this 30,500 level, we hammered on it for a bunch of days in a row. We got a doji. When you see this kind of candle here, right here, that's what we look for as a resistance kind of reversal signal. That did turn out to be the beginning of the decline. That was the highest point. Now, if we can get back to that level, there's no doubt that this line is somewhat weakened. So the more you hit it, think about the door analogy. If there's a door in front of me and I got to get through that door, I might ram my shoulder into it the first time, probably not going to break it down. But if I do that 3, 4, 5 times, at some point that door is going to give way. Same thought process with resistance trend lines. So as we come back up, the odds of it breaking higher are there. They're not super, super high yet, but they're increasing every time we hit it.
Got you. Now, if we do break 30K and actually make that support, meaning we break, it comes down, it meets support, it meets 30K and makes a support for people watching this video, will that make you bullish on Bitcoin, or do you still see us going down to 12, 10K?
So I would say this is if we can get above 30,500 being such a psychological level and we actually hold there. So for me, I would actually want to see us stay above for 5 to 7 trading days with the weekends in there and stuff and the light volume. I want to see us hold above there. If that happens, then I think at that stage, I would say the likelihood is we have a low on Bitcoin. Doesn't mean that you would go bullish there, right? You still have an extended chart. You might say, okay, well, on a pullback, now I start buying heavily, right? So that's the key, is that the mindset starts to change from shorting more heavily to buying more heavily on the pullbacks, right? So shorting the pops to buying the dips for me. So that's something I'm watching. There's no doubt about it. Definitely I'm curious, and what history will tell us this is how much did the banking crisis change the Bitcoin cycle? Did it change the Bitcoin cycle? I don't know if it did, but there's no doubt that right here, right on the charts, this is where all of a sudden we were selling off pretty sharply, and then the banking crisis happened and we started to rip up here as well. Right over here, you can see how we consolidated and then broke down. So we've basically done a full circle back of this period to breakdown to going back to that area right there. And so again, that's why it's a lot of resistance. There's just a ton of people that are looking to unload into that area. There were people that were buying in here that then got crushed out of the money. They're finally being made whole. So some of them are selling their Bitcoins into it. So this is a concern though to me, because what we're seeing here, and you can see, I see people pumping Pepe. I see them. I mean, this is junk, right? This is junk. And
XRP is a good cryptocurrency, man.
All right, well, whatever it is, but I mean, I look at something and it's 5 cents or 3 cents or 2/10 of a penny. Like, that's a concern to me, is that when you see these things pumping, because what I'm seeing on Twitter and what I'm seeing in social media is pump and dumps going left and right. And that is not the sign of a bottom. That's the sign of a top. And so again, that's to me a big concern when you're seeing this type of behavior going on in markets.
Talking about crap coins and meme coins and stuff, what's going on with the US dollar?
Yeah, good point. Well, I mean, listen, we know the US dollar is still the reserve currency of the world, but in 10 years, my guess is it won't be, right? A lot of people, there's been so much chatter on social media about, oh my goodness, it's going to collapse. No, it's not going to collapse overnight. You're not going to see countries like, Japan and these other countries all of a sudden just 100% dump their reserve currencies. But is it the beginning of the end? Yeah, it is. You're seeing China now trading with Argentina in digital yuan, more and more countries doing that. You're seeing, other currencies start to be traded amongst trading partners without using the US dollar. So there's no doubt that that's where we're headed. But for me, it's not like I'm a shorter term trader. It's not a trade that I'm like hopping on. I'm not like shorting the dollar because it's going to collapse to zero tomorrow. And and by the way, we better hope it doesn't, because then it'll be a pile of what.
A lot of people say, the dollar should go down. I don't want it to go down. No one wants to go down. Yeah. But what do you think is going to happen? Will that give birth to the gold standard? We do see BRICS countries and countries in general going to the gold standard, and could it give birth to a Bitcoin standard, at least a parallel one in the economy? What do you think?
So I think when Bitcoin matures and isn't so volatile, yes. Right now, I mean, I couldn't even imagine a country look at El Salvador, right? I mean, trying to tie your country to Bitcoin is very risky at this point. But, you look in 10 years or 20 years, I could see it being tied to Bitcoin or to another cryptocurrency. In terms of the gold standard returning, to me, it's very unlikely that major countries will, because countries, as much as we're seeing the printing of money and what it's caused, government officials don't want to lose control, right? They don't want to say, hey, we have to hold X amount of gold, and that means if we want to print this much, we have to get this. They don't want to do that. They want free reign. And that's the problem. And then, by the way, that's gotten us into the problem we're in. So again, my year-end target is about 23 to 2,400. Right now, we've had this beautiful run up, and I love the price action recently. This is bullish consolidation. It's right below this triple top area here. My guess is we start moving up. Yeah, you'll stall there, but ultimately, I think we break out. Gold to me is that perfect opportunity, right? It's if inflation stays high and the Fed has to keep interest rates high, gold is where you want to be with inflation high. If inflation collapses because the economies are collapsing, then the safety trade is gold, right? So it works on almost any angle you throw at it. So again, I do believe that gold goes up. And just to do a quick calculation, there's something called a measured move, where basically what you do here on the charts is you say, okay, this was the beginning of that bull run here. So you went from here all the way up to this high, which is about $1,000. We'll call it around $1,000. So the idea is a measured move. You take that same 1,000, and when you break above this 2075, you would essentially add 1,000 there, which gets you that 3,000 price target you're talking about. The bigger question is, how long does that take? My guess is 2024. Probably not this year, but I could see by late 2024 that is a possibility.
Let's just go back to the cryptocurrencies and let's have a look at XRP, since you were so eager to look at it before. I know you're an XRP army fanboy.
Yeah, right. So XRP had an amazing run, right? I mean, we saw that big pop up, and then you fell back. Here was a classic bearish pattern, which told you we were going down. And essentially what you've done is you've retraced into this area here. That was the low just a few days ago. So it's retraced into a lot of support here. Again, I have no idea what the judge's decision will be, whether it will come in the near term, in the long term. But my guess is, and again, I'm just going to throw this out there, is that the same reason that Coinbase is worried about not knowing the clarity and they're not getting rules, my guess is the judge's decision probably has been made. It just is not being allowed to be made public. They're trying to get everything in alignment for what they want. The question I would say is, when going back to this, is does it have something to with making sure that they debut their CBDC first before they give that clarity, so that no cryptocurrency gains a stronger traction versus the CBDC?